Okay, so now that we've tiled some textures, I want to show how we can get maps out of Maya so that we can know where to place those tiled textures. So if you note here, I have a bunch of these textures are the bunch that are going to be all the galvanized metal, the regular silver galvanized metal. And if I go over to my materials here, you can see what I've done is I've turned my ambient color all the way up and I'm turning my reflectivity all the way down. Okay, so I'm going to do that in my materials, my blend, and that's going to be important for when I'm exporting some textures for these. So next thing I want to do is I'm going to duplicate these objects. I'm going to hit Control D and it's going to make duplicates of them, and I'm going to hit Control G to group them all together. And then I'm going to name these duplicates just Galv Metal. Something like that. Okay. So for right now I'm going to hide those. Control H, and I'm going to reselect the ones that I just had selected. And I'm going to change my, usually we're in modeling here, I'm going to change this to rendering. And then what we want to do is go into lighting and shading and transfer maps right here. So in our transfer maps, what this allows us to do is you can bake one map to another map. Now you can see the objects I had selected just got loaded in, but I can clear those out. But I actually do want those. I'm just going to hit Add Selected. So I want all of these in my first slot, which is called the target mesh. And you have a source mesh, and this is where you're going to bake your materials from, or in this case we're just going to bake the diffuse color from. So I'm going to select my source meshes, which are going to be this Galv Metal. So let me hit Shift H to unhide them, and then I'm going to grab all of these and then just hit Add Selected. So now that's where we're getting our source from, and then we're just going to use it. We just want a diffuse map, so I'm just going to hit diffuse right here. By default it adds a DDS. I'm going to change this to a Targa. So if I can find it. Now a Targa is uncompressed, and that's one of the reasons why I use it. For settings, make sure you disconnect this. So don't connect the maps to shaders, otherwise it makes new shaders for you and applies it automatically. You don't want that right now. So we have to go to this common output, and we have to change the size. So we want, in this case, a 4096. There we go. And then you can pick like how good you want your transfer maps to look. In this case, we don't really need a high setting. I'm just going to keep it at 2x2 because it's just a diffuse, basically like it's almost just like a layer to tell us where to place the galvanized metal. So we'll see how that works in a second. You can have use common settings on. If you turn this off, you actually get, it actually just forgoes this, and you can just go right from here. So actually I'm going to do that. I just don't want Maya's render doing anything for me. And then you can name this too. So if I click on this, I can say, oh, let's see, I don't know why it's set to that. Let's go and change it to Targa, and then I can just say Galv Metal, like that, and just hit bake. And hopefully it'll go pretty quick for you. As long as your reflections are off, it should go a little bit faster. You might be hearing my computer rev up right now. So let's give it a second more. Let's see if we click on. For some reason my bar here keeps popping up, but normally it gives you like a little thing that tells you where you're at. It looks like we're about halfway. It's actually behind here. I can kind of see it. So there we go. It's almost done. And let's go to Photoshop and we'll get ready to open it. So this is an old one that I baked. I'm going to close that. This is also another one that I baked. Okay, so I'm going to hit Control O for open, find that map that you baked out wherever you baked it to, and here's my Targa. Hit open, and then what you can see here is that anything that's this light gray color, that's all the galvanized areas. So I can go ahead and bring my wand tool out, or which is a better tool, is actually color range. So just go ahead and click on color range, and then you can click on this gray area here, and it'll sample that, and then it should turn white in here, and basically your fuzziness lets you kind of add in stuff that's close to this this gray color, whatever the color is you sampled. This is a good tool, so hit OK, and then it just selects the gray. And then from here, what I can do is I can go ahead and make a new layer, and I'm just going to paste in, so I'm going to hit Alt Delete, so I'm just pasting my foreground color in. Okay, so if I hide this now, you'll see I have just the foreground color, Control D, and I actually kind of don't want this this little area here, so I'm going to lasso around here like so. There we go, and then just hit delete, Control D. Okay, so now remember how we made that tiled texture and we put it into patterns. So if I double click on this and I go into my pattern, I can come into here and I can select that first one we made, and then I can go ahead and start scaling it down. Oops, let's go ahead and take a look at it. So I just hit OK. And I'm not sure if this is the right scale yet, but you know, I could give it a go and see what happens. So from here, why don't I just, I'm going to pull this off a little bit. I'm going to drag this into this file, because this is actually where I want this. So I'm going to hold Shift when I click on the layer and drag. So Shift and click. Now, that's not the right size. Why did that happen? So for some reason it baked out at the wrong size. That's strange, because it should be at 4096. Alright, I'm okay with this though, because I'll tell you what I can do. Let me just undo that. I'm going to change this to a larger size, because what will happen is that this pattern overlay, it won't actually be affected. It won't affect the resolution. So I'm going to hit Control Alt I, which will bring up my image size, and then I'm going to dial in 4096. I'm not sure why it came in the wrong size, but so the res for this thing should still be good, and then I'll just go ahead and just hold Shift and drag it into here. And if we did this correctly, let's pull it below our UV layer, and actually I should name this UVs, so I know that's my UV layer, and then I'll name this Galv Metal. Alright, so let's see how it did. Strange. This piece is a bit off for some reason, and I'm not quite sure why. That is really strange. Everything else is good, so everything else baked the way it was supposed to, but this one is a little bit off. Well, this comes to those times where I'm not really sure why that happened, especially with everything else being good. I'm not sure why the sizes were different. So I'm going to just go like this and Marquee here, and just make sure I got the whole UVs in there, which I did, and I'm not touching anything else. And then on this layer, I'm just going to hit Alt Delete. So there we go. We just fill the rest of it in. So you can see how nice that works. Now the scale might still be off, so if I go double click on this pattern here, and you can actually just lower the scale a little bit more, make it more tiled if need be. That's the nice thing about this way, is that it's kind of still live. You can change it if you need. Alright, so what we want to do now is we want to test this and see what it looks like. So let's go ahead and hit Control Shift S, and we will save this file out, and I'm going to save it as a targa, and we'll call it just call it lamp C, lamp underscore C, and the C stands for color, and save it. It's going to ask me what how many bits, and I wanted 24 bits because right now I don't need any transparency, so I'm going to hit OK. Let's go back to Maya. And now if I come to my texture, or I should say material here, I can turn let's turn my ambient color down, and I'm going to go into my actual color and go to File, and then here in File I can just hit this folder, and I can go and find that lamp C and hit open, and now you can see we are getting our texture on there, so it's coming along. Now of course our seam is back here, and we are getting a little bit of a seam, and I know ways to get rid of that, but I think that's going to go beyond what I want to do for this this tutorial. So far I think this looks pretty close. I have to look at the images to see if the scale looks right, but it doesn't look too bad to me. Okay, so the next thing to do is just keep doing the same process. So you would like duplicate this, this, and this, and you would bake this out to a map, and then you would go ahead and just in Photoshop bring that in and fill the this with the new texture. Now I did make a new texture in Photoshop of the galvanized metal, so let's go here, hit F again. Okay, this thing's being tricky. Okay, let's close this because that thing was broke anyway. Don't know what was going on with that. And let's see if I can find that new galvanized metal. Where is it? Might have closed it. Let me open that again. Now, you know what? Instead of doing that, why don't I just do this? Let's go ahead and just do this process one more time. So really quickly, so select the ones that you want to bake from. Okay, hit Control D, you duplicate them, and then you're going to hit Control G, put them all into one layer. Okay, Maya, come on. There we go. It was lagging, and then we'll call this Galv Green Metal. Okay, hide that. Let's grab those same guys again. Now they should all have the same material right here. For some reason there's still an old material on that. I'm not sure why. I'm going to actually select all these. Let me double check, make sure that we don't get any problems here. Assign existing material. So delete the history. I just want to make sure that there's still this blend 1 on there, and I'm concerned that that's going to cause problems. Okay. Well, it's not going away, so let's just hope it works correctly. Alright, so we grab these 3. Let's just clear all, make sure we like add selected, and then we'll come over to close that down. Shift H, and we'll select all of these. Add these. So you want that in your, oops, it looks like I did this wrong. So clear, add selected meshes. I didn't realize I wasn't rolled up all the way, so let's grab these original ones. Okay, clear all, add selected meshes. Okay, so now we pull all of them out. We still have a diffuse map here set up, so we'll just change the name of it. And we'll change it from why it goes to JPEG every time, I'm not sure. Okay, so we'll change it from Galv Metal to Galv Green Metal. Alright, there we go. Save that off. And maybe we'll get a 4096 this time. I somehow doubt it. But we'll see what happens. Let me, yeah, you know, maybe what we'll do is say use the common settings. We'll see if that works better. We'll bake that. Alright, sometimes it takes a bit, so I'll pause and we'll see what happens. Okay, so for some reason that one actually didn't take that long to bake. And Now that I'm using the Maya settings, it's making it 4096, so it seemed to work. That's what we wanted. And so from here, again, you can use your select, color range, grab these. Let's see here. There we go. Turn that fuzziness down. I guess it's too close to black, so hit OK. You can just turn on your Marquee tool, M, right click, layer via copy, hold shift and just drag it with shift held into here, and then you'll get your area that will be all of your green stuff. So from here, let's hide that. I made a new pattern, so let's look at the new one. Should be something like that. And then if you hold Control plus on your keyboard, you can still zoom in, even if you're in this panel here, in this layer style panel. And so I'm going to make this scale a lot smaller. Maybe something like that. Hit OK. Let's see how this looks. I think that looks alright. And of course I can save this. Oh, I haven't even saved it yet, so that would be a good idea. So we'll call it lamp_C. And then we can of course just save the target again. Now in Maya, you do have to update the texture. It doesn't keep updating it. So let's go here. Let's just select this. And then, oh, of course, we have to put it in here as well. So let's just grab it, put it in there. Open. Okay. Yeah, I'm not thrilled about it yet, but you know, it's just the first pass, and that's all I'm looking to get done with this tutorial. We do want to put a texture down here, right? So we see that's right over here. Let's go and do that really quick. So let's close this. No, and I have a picture here. Now this isn't perfect, I will say that, because we're getting these highlights on here, and if you're going to really do this well, you actually have to get rid of those highlights. But we're just going to basically deal with what we have right here. It's just, this is like a kind of what you do to get started with your texturing. Just get the base layer on, and you know, and then you can clean it up afterwards. Alright, so we've got this set up. I can go ahead and just hit Control C, Control V. Actually, I don't even know. I probably could have done this a lot better. Actually, no. Let's hit Control N, Control V. That's what I wanted to do. I don't need this anymore. So let's just close that. Okay. So why I did it this way is because if I snap to the middle here, so if you have your snaps on, it should snap pretty close to the middle. Then you can come into. Oh, by the way, if you don't know, this is your rulers. So you can hit Control R if you don't see them, and then you just click in here and drag a guide out, and they typically snap to the middle. So if you have snap on in your view, it should snap to the middle. But come to your tools over here, like your ellipse tool. So you just click and hold down and go to your ellipse tool, and then hold Alt and Shift at the same time, and just click in the middle and drag outwards. And you can go ahead and you can isolate this way if you want by making a path like so, and then go to your paths right here, and then just hit this little marching ants thing here for selection. Oh, and by the way, I guess I should mention this first. I'm sorry. If you got a shape, if you were just doing this and you got a shape, you were probably set to here, up in the top here. So there's shape layers and then there's paths. I have mine set to paths, so I think by default it is set to shape. So you have to change it, but you might still be able to select a the marching ants thing even if you have it set to shape. Like if I set this to shape, let's make this layer. I'm just double checking this. So if I go like this, and that's the shape. Let's see. Oh, it went back, it reverted. I don't know why. Okay, so if I have that set and I go to paths and then I hit this, it will select that too. So even if you did it wrong, it should still select it. Okay, so now we've got, let's throw out the shape layer. Okay, so now we've got this. So we're going to use our marquee to layer via copy. So now we only get this circular area. Hold shift, drag it into here. It says that it's a different resolution or depth, bit depth, and that's fine. So just hit yes. So now we're in here, and we want to find our area that we have this here. So we can turn our UVs on. So we hit Control T to transform this. Hold Alt and Shift together, and you can actually drag it uniformly in like that. If you get it down here, you can hit Control Plus to zoom in while you're still in your transform. And let's just make that bigger. Okay. Alright, so now I'm just going to hold Control and or Shift and Alt again to scale this just right. Hopefully it's working out the right ratio. It's probably actually something like this. And then this outer area would have to be a continuation of the green color here. So you could go in and blend those. So we can see the difference here, like this green doesn't look quite the same. So if I want to affect that, I'm actually going to show you a trick. You can go ahead and if you right click on this FX thing, you can say create layer, and what it will do is it will take this one layer out, and then actually I'm going to undo that. This is a good way to do it, but I'm going to show you a different way. Just create a second layer and collapse this down into it. And what it'll do is it flattens it out. So if you ever need to put that pattern back on there, you're just going to have to go back in and double click and put a pattern on. But the reason why I did it this way is because now I can come in here and change the hue saturation. And I'm going to clip it to that. Control-Alt-G clips it to just the layer below. So it's only affecting the one layer, and then let's go ahead and minimize that. And then now with this hue saturation layer, I can come in, and if you're in your adjustments tab here, you can just adjust the saturation, make sure it's about the same, adjust the hue, make it a little bit more green, maybe darker, maybe something more like that, and then now it's starting to look closer to the same color. Let's see, I'm going to lower the saturation a little bit more, and then you can just blend this. So if you wanted to, you can go onto this layer, make a layer mask, and then just use your layer mask to kind of blend between these two, like so. And you'd probably want to paint some rust in here if we were doing this like a finished thing and it wasn't just kind of a tutorial, a quick tutorial. Then you would want to like blend all the rust in there properly. But the way I'm doing it now is just like getting it started, and then I would prefer like eventually go into a 3D program and then I can paint the rust right on there. It makes it easier. But this is actually back in the day, this is how we had to do everything. We didn't have 3D paint programs, so we were working this way. So anyway, so now that I've got that in there, let's just pretend there's no highlights. We can go ahead and just save this out, check our work. So let's just save it with Targa, and there we go. Go back to Maya, and then okay, you can see it already updated. So look at that. Of course, we'd want to have, we put bump maps on everything, and if we're doing this like at a super high level, so we'd want to make bump maps for all this, and so then the next thing to do would just be to do the same treatment for this here, and then we have to get into Sketchfab. So I'm not going to show this last back part, the aluminum part, because I think that can be figured out just by the other stuff that we've already worked on. And so I'm going to just leave that alone. let you guys figure that out, and then I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this done and then put it into Sketchfab.